Good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Success Sadhana. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today. As you all know, Vaish, who regularly conducts this program, is currently on a trip to Europe. But he has been kind enough that he sent 2 sweet messages, and he has encouraged us that we continue to meet and keep the transcendental vibration going. So thank you for joining. We will review his messages, couple of messages he has shared, as well as discuss and learn from each other. So thank you, Andy and Debbie, Mayank and Subhadra for joining, and thanks Shweka for managing the social media today. I hope you all are doing well. So with that, what we'll do is we'll do a short breathing exercise so that we can be centered and be ready to review Vaish's message. So let's get started. So let's sit up a little straight than you were a few seconds ago. Back correct. And start breathing normally and take few deeper breaths than you normally do. And as you breathe, please focus your attention on your breath. And let's be grateful for the opportunity to get together and do some introspection. So now take a deep breath, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. As you take this deep breath, now let's use our most powerful asset, our attention, and turn it towards our feet and ask it to relax. Turn our attention to our legs, calf, thighs, and ask it to relax. Turn our attention to our stomach, chest, and ask it to relax. Keep taking deep breaths. Now ask our fingers, hand, wrist, arms. Ask it to relax. Turn our attention to the shoulders, neck, cheek, and ask you to relax. Let's turn our attention to eyes, eyebrows, forehead, head, and ask you to relax. Keep taking a deep breaths and ask your body to relax. Now we'll chant few mantras, and please feel the vibration of the mantras in the heart region, on the face. We'll chant Om mantra. Deep breath in. 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 Now feel the vibration of the Om mantra and think about all the gifts you have received today and how grateful you are. Now rub your palms, open your eyes, and come back to the Zoom room. Thank you, Shubha, Tulsi, Subhadra, and Wolf for joining. I hope you all are doing good today. And also thank you for everyone who has joined us on our Facebook. So what we'll now do is go through the review the messages which Baish had shared and discuss some of the spiritual teaching that's contained in them. So I'll share my screen and we'll get started. Let me know if you're able to see my screen. So as most of you know, which Vaish has shared several times, there are two types of educational system, which is mentioned in Vedas or the ancient wisdom literatures. One type is called Apara Vidya, which is material knowledge, which contains all the Vedic knowledge and its corollaries, including the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. And the second type is called Paravidya, which means transcendental knowledge, which is spiritual knowledge, which primarily is contained within Vedanta Sutra, including Srimad Bhagavatam. And if you look at the objective of each of these educational systems, the Apara Vidya, which is material knowledge, basically is for living entities for 4 types of interest that they have in their lifetime. Of course, we all are motivated, which primarily consists of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Dharma means regulated living. Artha is all economic progress, stability. Kama is sense gratification and enjoyment, and moksha is liberation. And there is no hard and fast where you start, but typically people do tend to start with artha, some of them, because they do want some economic stability, at least their basic needs of food, shelter, etc. is met. So that's taken care of. And once that basic need is met, then they try to go beyond that and have some sense gratification so that they can enjoy their life. And as you can see, both artha and kama, there is no end to it. You can keep pursuing to grow more and more, keep trying to get more and more enjoyment. That's why dharma is typically said as the first limb, which is you start with regulated living, so that all the artha or economic pursuit that you have, or even sense gratification pursuit you have, they are regulated and they're not unregulated, so that you don't miss out on inquiring and pursuing the purpose of the real purpose of life. So that dharma typically contains do's and don'ts. What are some of the things you should do and things you should not, and regulate your economic and sense gratification activities. And finally, once all is stabilized, you try to pursue liberation from this material bondage because you don't want to keep repeating. So those are some of the aspects of the 4 interests of knowledge which the material literature provide. The spiritual literature primarily focuses on 3 stages of spiritual advancement. So those contain Sambandha, which is our relationship with Supreme. Second is Abhideya. Once you know the relationship, what are the means of fulfilling that relationship? And that is Abhideya. And lastly, third is Prayojana, which means once you execute the means, what is the object of pursuit? What I want to attain? So the ultimate goal of life being love, having a loving relationship with Supreme. So spiritual literature guide us on how to establish our relationship and then act in that relationship to find the ultimate object. So towards that, Vai shared a sweet message. So I will view that and then I'll open up a discussion. I'm not sure if I shared with sound, so let me reshare it with sound so that you can hear Vai's message. And please let me know if you can't hear the sound.
Hey everybody, greetings from the countryside.
Just want to confirm that you are able to hear the sound?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Hey everybody, greetings from the countryside just outside of Rome. Since I was on with you last on Success Sadhana, I had to go to New York City for a festival, which was quite extraordinary. I have been attending that festival, at least periodically, since 1976 when it first started. And this year, people were especially exuberant to be out there. It's a festival of the chariots. And actually, in 1976, we were able to get a permit to go take the chariots down Fifth Avenue all the way to a park where there's a large festival. Large means that they served out about 10,000 plates of vegetarian food. And there are several stages for kirtan music, spiritual music, and numerous other events there at the park all day long. And it was well attended, perhaps as much as it was in 1976 when we had the largest crowd, I think, on record, but this probably equaled it because people are happy to be out and happy to be at a festival. And from New York, I came to Rome, where I'm attending a meeting of book publishers, and I'm a part of a book trust. And here in the countryside near Rome, it's a little bit quiet and rustic, and there's a lot I've been thinking about here. Before I came, I was traveling with one of my colleagues, and he was speaking about a principle that I think is very important and in relationship to the lessons of the Golden Monk. One of them is how much our lives are controlled by metaphor. And when we look at our lives as being a race, of course everyone's heard this, we're in a race. Sometimes we call it the rat race. Then we have to work extraordinarily hard to keep up. I mean, races happen periodically and we do the best we can in it, but if our whole life is a race, how are we living? How are we pushing ourselves and missing a lot? Another metaphor that we often hear about life is it's a ladder and we have to climb it. But a good question to ask oneself is, where are we going? What's at the top of the ladder? In fact, there's an old admonition that you should be aware of where the ladder is taking you before you start climbing it anyway. But another thought that's given by the Golden Monk, who said, Prema Pumarto Mahan. Human life is especially meant to develop prema, or love. And the idea is that we're connected to something much bigger than ourselves. we're connected to the Supreme. A love supreme is what we're ultimately satisfied by. Being connected to, knowing our original source and being connected to it. And what's the most powerful connector in this world? It's love. And what if we lived for love? Well, that's what the Golden Monk said. Prema pumarto mahan. The ultimate artha, or the ultimate value in life, is realized by living for love. And so that's what Bhakti Yoga is. And the Golden Monk suggested that that's a much better metaphor with which to frame your life, to keep yourself actually happy. Because whatever situation we're in, if our ultimate goal is to develop an awareness, first of all, of ourselves, that we're not our physical bodies, nor are we our minds, and that we have an origin that we're intimately connected with, and that there's a process for being in touch with that original source, and that it's a very loving connection. It is an indisputable fact that every living being displays some kind of affection, and we can notice it in all forms of life. That, according to the Golden Monk, is our nature. So when we're in alignment with our nature, that's called dharma. And when we're out of our alignment, then it's adharma, and we don't feel happy. So it's a rather simple concept. One of the great poets who taught about the Golden Monk was named Bhaktivinoda, and he sang in Bengali a song, Jeev Krishna Das E Bishwas Korleto Ardukonai. If you get back in alignment with your dharma, with your real nature, then immediately you'll become happy. When we're misaligned, then we feel what's called dukh. Dukh means a sense of life being out of order. Did you ever feel like that? Anyway, right now I'm walking through an olive grove, which is pretty common. I'm going to turn a little bit so you can see the olive trees here. This place reminds me a lot of California. Every time I come to Italy, a lot of the flora and fauna are similar. Giving you a little panoramic view here. There's some quaint house behind me on the hill. Nice cloud cover today. It's been in the 90s in the afternoon, but you barely notice it because there's a breeze that comes in off of the ocean, off the sea anyway, and from quite a distance away, but it's significant. It's quite nice. Yesterday, I went with the group of publishers that I told you about to Rome, and I hadn't been in the Vatican since 1973, the summer of 1973, when my parents took my brother and me there, and I was quite impressed by the artistry, and was again this time just the grandeur of the place, and thinking about how in every era there are various ways that people distinguish themselves. Nowadays we've become taken a lot with technology, and the artistry and the patience that one has to build such beautiful, architecturally, aesthetically outstanding structures, what to speak of the sculptures inside and so forth, has diminished quite a bit in a society where we take up these metaphors, life is a race, life is a ladder, and forget about how we need beauty, we need love, and it does touch the soul when we go into even aesthetically outstanding environments, and we can feel our connection with that. I'll be checking in a few other places, hopefully, and I hope all of you are doing well. One principle that I keep always when I'm traveling. Of course, there's always time changes, jet lag, and things like that, but is to keep the transcendental vibration going. Your spiritual practice is portable. You can take it with you wherever you go. And it's amazing because whatever environment that I go to, because I have my practice so solidly in place, I do the same practice in any environment. And immediately the environment around me adjusts because my consciousness is what I perceive, what I use to, or is the lens through which I perceive my environment, but the environment also changes as well. And this is one of the most important aspects of a spiritual practice. It doesn't matter where you are. It's not the environment that defines us. It's our own consciousness, and we can develop our consciousness or we can just let it slip. It's just like with diet. You are what you eat. And we are what we practice, and especially the transcendental sound vibration that we take in every day. But we can regulate that, and that's one of the main practices of Bhakti Yoga. So keeping the mantra going, counting it every day, and also reading from the wisdom literatures is especially edifying. It's something that brings the consciousness up, no matter where you happen to be or whatever else is going on around you. So my humble advice, please keep the transcendental vibration going. I'm missing you all and look forward to being back there as soon as I get back from my travels. Please take good care, and I'll see you soon.
That was a sweet message which I received today morning. I felt very happy. Any reflection on that message or any questions, any comments? How you felt? You can. Mariam is clapping. Thank you, Mariam. You can type in chat box, or you can maybe unmute yourself and speak.
So nice to hear him. I think after so long, I think 2-3 weeks, we haven't heard from him. That's great.
True, true. Even sound vibration makes a lot of difference. Tulsi is clapping. Thank you, Tulsi. Any other reflections, questions, thoughts, comments? Shubha is clapping too. Thank you, Shubha. Okay, so we'll go ahead. Was there somebody? No, okay. So what we'll do is we will continue on some of the points which Vaish made, which is what Golden Monk said, reaching the ultimate goal of life, and how Bhakti Yoga, the yoga process of love and gratitude, helps us to pursue that path. So let me continue to share and talk about a couple of more points. So let me able to see my screen. So Prabhupada, who is teaching, okay, Shubha has her hand raised. Yeah, go ahead, Shubha.
Oh, I'm so sorry, JM. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but as before we heard Vaish's message, you were actually sharing a slide about Paravidya.
Uh-huh.
Do you mind bringing that up again? I had a question on the Prayojana piece of it, but I just wanted to quickly see that slide again.
Sure. That's on the Paravidya, so which is Prayojana, you mean?
Right. The third point.
Yeah.
Ultimate goal of life is love, right?
Yes.
So do you, prior to that, you were talking about the Aparavidya, which is the kind of the material knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the spiritual knowledge, the stages of spiritual advancement, right?
Uh-huh.
Do you start with the material part first, like the Aparavidya, before you actually come to the Paravidya? Like, is there a recommend, or can you be doing everything at the same time, or I just as a foundation before we go too far, I just wanted to understand how these two relate in order of process.
That's an excellent question. Thank you, Shubha, for bringing that up. And as you alluded to, there is no hard and fast rule, and a lot of it depends on your nature, that is built upon your past karma, right? Like what kind of uh, uh, proclivity have built up, as well as your current intention, what kind of current intention that you have. So like even within metal knowledge, as I previously mentioned, you have dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And though typically it's recommended that you start with dharma, that is, you know what are the do's and don'ts before you start with artha, which is economic development, or kama, which is sense gratification, so that you can be regulated. But typically people start with economic because you do want to maintain body. And know that though we are spiritual beings, we are conscious entities, but we are in a metal body. So it's not that we are still within that. So we are forced by this body to act in material plane. So that activity happens, will continues to happen at the same time based on our intention and past karma, and also by grace of Supreme, we do start our journey in the spiritual plane as well. And some of them might spend a lot of time on their years in material plane before they get started in spiritual plane. Others, as very at young age, they may pick up spiritual path given their past karma or the environment in which they are being brought up, and might progress. So there is no hard and fast. It's both. We can move in both. Subhadra, did you have anything to add there? Okay. Did that help, Shubha?
Yes, yes. And in the Paravidya stages, which was, I'm trying to remember, if you don't mind bringing
Sure.
that slide up again. Do you go with one after the other, or do you just?
Yeah. Yeah. So the rest of the slides are on these aspects. So we'll go a bit more detail, but the short answer to question typically starts with sambandha, because you do need to know yourself and Supreme and relationship. So once that starts, then you start acting in that relationship to obtain the goal. But next few slides are related to that. We'll go into more details there.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for asking that wonderful question. So, so as I mentioned, Prabhupada gave this nice analogy, which was helpful in understanding. So because relationship is very typical of any other relationship we find, let's say relationship in business. So typically two businessmen, like let's say a buyer and a supplier, when they come together, supplier is looking to sell his goods, and buyer is looking to buy goods to, maybe resell or manufacture something and sell it to his customer. And for them to come together, the motive is, of course, profit, right? Both the seller is looking to make profit, as well as buyer is trying to buy and make more profit. So given that is the objective or prayojana that they have, they come together and first sign a contract. This contract detail establishes as a seller what are seller's responsibility, what goods or services he will provide, when, where, at what cost, at what price, and similarly the responsibility of the buyer, what would be the amount that he'll pay in exchange, by when he'll pay, and etc. So this contract then defines the relationship between both the buyer and seller. Once the relationship is established, then they start executing the contract, which is acting in the relationship, understanding the relationship, then they act So the seller produces the goods or buys and distributes the goods to the buyer, and the buyer makes arrangement for money payment on a regular basis as outlined. So they act in that relationship, and finally they attain the objective, which is the seller is happy, he has gotten the money, he has made profit, and buyer is also happy, he is now able to make whatever goods or services he intends to make profit. So that, if you can, in the same, you can understand the same aspects even in our material relationship. Does it make sense? Any questions or comment on this? No? So let's see how this translates to what Vaish was talking about, how the Sambandha, Abhidheya and Prayojana come together for us to reach the ultimate aim that we have in our life. So first is Sambandha, which is, Sambandha means knowledge of self and supreme, like buyer and seller, like same thing, which is we should know what we are before we can understand the relationship we have with our supreme. And one of the first thing, as Vaish mentioned in his video, was we are not our bodies, but we are conscious living entities. How do we know that? Like, we have spoken a lot, but as for example, like we all, one example was like we have hair in our body and it falls. We never think we are hair and we lament that, oh, I died. Because we know we're not hair, the hair will grow back and it's temporary anyways. At least typically we don't lament because it's a regular aspect of life. But it's very difficult to translate that to body. Typically we do associate with body because it's not inherent, it doesn't come to us. But as we have seen, the body keeps changing, so we can't be that, because we still feel the same internally. Like even though we might be 50, 60, we might feel we are still young, but we find that our bodies are not acting the way we think. So we are not bodies, but we are conscious living entity, and at the same time we are eternal, indestructible, unborn, ever existing, and immutable. So we were never born, we always existed and will continue to exist. And this is a very, it's a relief, because it gives us security. If we are going to lose something, for example, if you are going to die, then we become insecure, and at times we may make mistakes in that insecurity, but knowing that we will always exist in that security, we are able to act in the righteous way. Same thing, we don't change, we are indestructible, nobody can kill us. We will never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor by burned by fire, or moistened by water, or withered by the wind, which is, we are immutable, nothing can change us. And we continuously pass from one body to the next in this metal plane till we don't come to the highest plane, and we are not ready for the spiritual life. So that is the knowledge of the self, that what we are, which we, of course, we have discussed Vaish has discussed several times in this program. Any question or comment on this before I go to the next slide? No? So next is Sambandha, which is knowledge of the Supreme. So as once we understood ourselves, and typically either through association, where we come in contact with other spiritual beings when they introduce, or through grace, which descends from Supreme, that's when we come to know of Supreme. And it's written in Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that even those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth, which is to know Supreme is very, very rare. It's not very easy. Why is that? Because we are on this metal plane, in this metal body, always pursuing metal goals, that knowing, even thinking about spiritual aspects, and beyond that, knowing the ultimate goal of spirituality, which is to reach Supreme, is very, very rare activity, given how much we are entangled in this metal nature within the ropes of three modes of metal nature. And second is supreme is the original or supreme consciousness. Everything pervades from him, both the material energy, the material world, as well as all the not material plane. Everything comes from him, and he's cause of all causes. Like if you, like even scientifically, when you want to understand, like say Big Bang, what? So we always ask the question, what before Big Bang, and there is no answer. Or I heard some suggestion was something came out of nothing. There was nothing, and then from nothing something came, which is like Big Bang came out of nothing, which is difficult to sometimes comprehend. As a fun, I always thought maybe I wish that can be applied to my bank balance. Like I have zero bank balance, there is nothing, and something can keep coming every day, and so that I can be free of all this misery and focus on what I really want to do. But here it's mentioned in Vedas and even Bhagavad Gita that Supreme is the cause of all causes. Everything starts from him, and he is the master of all the three potencies, which is Chit Sakti, Maya Sakti, and Tathasta Sakti. So Chit Sakti is the spiritual potency. Maya Shakti is this metal energy from which the entire metal world is created, and Tathasta Sakti is us with the living beings, which are marginal in nature, and we have the free will to either have direct our attention to Maya, which is metal energy, or Supreme, which is spiritual energy. And Supreme Consciousness is master of all six fortune. So he is the most wealthiest because all wealth belongs to him. He is the most, is the strongest because every strength emanates from him. Fame, he is the most famous person, most beautiful, most knowledgeable, and despite all these fortunes, which will typically might intoxicate anyone who has, he is the most renunciate, which is despite having everything, is still not attached to any of those fortune. And everything rests upon the Supreme, similar to how pearls are strung on a thread. So all the pearls, they are hanging because of the thread, and if your thread takes out, then the pearls will fall down. So that is again, this is not full complete definition of everything which Supreme represents, but some of the aspects of Supreme. Any question on this? No. So the last aspect of Sambandha is this. So once we understand ourselves as well as the Supreme, why is what is the relationship? So Supreme created all of us so that he can have loving exchange. You can't exchange love without having somebody else to receive and reciprocate. So that's the reason why we exist, which is to get love from Supreme and from each other, as well as give back love to each other and to Supreme. Similarly, how parents, like sometimes they beget children, to exchange, have that loving relationship, and we love our parents most because they truly love and care, and hence we love them back. And we also love all our siblings, our brothers and sisters, because they're also, emanating, coming from our parents, as an example. So that's Sambandha, knowledge of self, knowledge of Supreme, and the relationship we have. Now, once we have this knowledge, the second is Abhideya. Before I start, I just want to maybe take a minute and see if there is any questions, comments, or reflection any of you have. Any thoughts on the Sambandha aspect?
Can you share the slide again?
Sure.
So you were saying that the relations we have with family, right? What about other relations?
So that was just and it was not. It was just to understand that how Supreme, you need to have, like if you have to exchange love, you have to have a loving relationship, you need to have two entities to exchange that love. Similarly, how sometimes parents, beget children so that they can exchange love. So that was just an analogy. If that does it answer the question, or do you have any follow-up to that?
No, I think yeah, I think I'm good. Yeah.
And if you're talking about the other relationship we have, like brothers and sisters, etc., same thing, like how we all are trying to encourage each other to make spiritual progress and exchange. Like Love is an emotion, but it is expressed in action. For example, you serve others or care for others, you do some, so here we are all encouraging each other to make progress. So that's in a way expressing love for each other, that we all are spiritual part of the Supreme, and we are encouraging each other.
Yes. Okay. Right.
Next is Abhideya, which is, so if we understand this relationship, then how should we act so that we can actually reach the destination that we have? So always be constantly engaged through thoughts, words, and action. So first is starts with hearing, which is understanding this relationship, the knowledge about this relationship through books and other wisdom literature. And once you understand, then you set your goals and make progress towards that goal in terms of how, because where attention goes, energy flows. So how much time will you spend on your material pursuit, and how much time will you spend in your spiritual pursuit? So you make those goals, and then you perform austerity, in the sense you serve others, encouraging them, and you express your gratitude by doing meditation, etc. So you're constantly engaged in spiritual activity, which is an expression of love towards Supreme. The second aspect is always seek service, because service conquers Supreme's heart. And service you do is just for the purpose of service. There is no other motive in return, because as soon as there is a motive, if there is an expectation, it's no longer pure service, it becomes impure. And we can start where we are and make incremental progress. And there are various ways to serve. As I mentioned, hearing about Supreme, that's a service as well, you believe it or not, because if by hearing about Supreme, you are paying your attention, the most valuable asset that you have. And that is loved by Supreme. Chanting, remembering, offering prayers, and serving other living entities, they're all part of expressing your love in action. And lastly, always lead with love, because love is in little things. It's not how precious the thing is, but the intention behind that always makes anyone and everyone happy. So what is your intention, and did you do it with sincerely, and how much, and with love? As Vaish gives the example, if if your daughter or a son goes out in your own garden and brings a flower which you have planted, but gives you with love on your birthday, you're very happy, not because of the flower which anyway was planted by you, but because of the intention that the little child chose to say thank you to you by giving this nice flower. So that's what pleases Supreme. And love means to serve. It's an active principle. It's not just words. As Vaish many times gives an example, like if you have a spouse and you keep saying I love you, but don't help out, at daily chores at home, or don't take care of your financial needs, etc., but just keep saying words, it will very soon lose its meaning. But if you actually serve, show the love in action, which is by serving, that's when it's received and then reciprocated. And serve means to please the other person, that's why serving, and pleasing means to sacrifice. So you give up something so the other person can feel happy. And when you sacrifice our attention, our time for the pleasure of Supreme, that's Bhakti Yoga, which is practicing all the Bhakti practices to please Supreme. So that's Abhideya. And once you perform these activities, knowing the relationship is when you reach Prayojana, which is the ultimate destination, to have loving relationship with Supreme. Once you perform all this action, Supreme will take notice that because your intention is there to please him, so it will reach him. And then then he will give the real intelligence. Once you are making the endeavor to please him, to reach him, he will remove illusion and will present the truth with which, the knowledge with which we can make progress and finally connect with him and exchange love. So that was a quick overview of three aspects of Sambandha, Abhidheya, and Prayojana. Any question on that before I share one more video which Vaishya shared? Any questions, comments, reflections? No? Okay. So this is about meditation actually. So which we can see, and that is one way, one abhideya, or one way to serve Supreme by meditating His name. So that's what Vaishya shared. So let's take a quick look at the second video which he has shared. I'm sharing this screen. Hopefully you can hear this sound.
Morning is the perfect time to start a spiritual practice, to start one spiritual practice. There's a calmness in the air, and there's a special energy that happens just before sunrise and as the sun is rising. This is called the sandhya, or the juncture between night and day. And this is a heralded or very much appreciated time by the yogis and all spiritual practitioners who know about this time. Actually, an hour and 40 minutes just before sunrise is called Brahma Muhurta. And during this time, you can perform your mantra meditation and be peaceful. Keep everything turned off. Don't have devices near you that can distract you. Just take this time to go inwardly and notice how your mind is working. And the mind is a subtle energy. As Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita, there are gross and subtle energies that make up this world, and our bodies are actually made up of these energies, both gross and subtle. And the mind is not us, although some people think I am my mind. That's a mistake. We're beyond the mind. We can objectify the mind. We can look at the mind and watch how it's working. Therefore, you can logically understand that you're not your mind. And as you observe and see, I'm not my hand, I'm not my leg, I'm not my stomach. The stomach is digesting, it's going on with its business, just like a dishwasher goes on, albeit more complicated system, the digestion. So similarly, the whole body is going on without me. Very little needed to run the body. And then in that state of awareness that I'm the witness of the body, you can begin to chant the mantra. As we've learned on Success Sadhana, there are various mantras. One of the gateway mantras is Nitai Gauranga. Sitting in a comfortable place, then objectifying the body and the mind, begin the mantra, speak it with your tongue, and listen with your ears, and notice how the sound vibration resonates. And the mantra means that sound vibration that lifts you above your mind, delivers you from the mind, because we're actually in a whirlpool and we're caught by it. What is that whirlpool? It's the mind. It's dragging us down. Sometimes we come up for air, and other times we're dragged down. This is called, in Bengali, habudubu. Habudubu is onomatopoeia for I'm drowning. It sounds like bubbles coming up from the water. So to rise above the mind and actually notice oneself as pure spirit, pure consciousness, beyond the body, you can chant the mantra. Start by breathing a little bit and noticing your breath. And then begin, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. And listen, take the time to hear the mantra and just let it resonate. Our minds are in discord because of mixing it with matter, mixing up with matter. This is called dvitiya. I think that I'm the material body or the mind, and therefore I'm full of fear because the mind and body are diminishing at every second. They're perishable objects, and I don't like that because as pure consciousness, I'm not perishable. I'm always in the present. I always exist, always have existed, and always will exist. So you can separate yourself from the maelstrom of the material world through the mantra. And after you sit for some time and just listen to the mantra, let your lips and tongue do the work, and then you can go into the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and repeat and just listen to the mantra. If you don't know it, you can have a card near you so you can keep looking at it until it becomes natural. And as it comes off your lips and into your ears, just listen for the sound vibration to sound mystical. It is. And in that awareness of the mantra, you'll start to notice the benefits of chanting the mantra. If you do this every morning, start with what you can handle, turning off everything else, being with yourself, being with the mantra, and just listening. Practice this. If the mind runs off, and it will, just gently bring it back under the control of the mantra and let that be your meditation. And if you start sometime when the sun is coming up, then the rest of the day will become a marvel to you. You've done your mantra meditation, the world will look different, and you'll be different because you've had a glimpse of who you actually are, and you've had a sense of the wonderment of the universe, the fact that we're not the controllers, everything's going on around us, and there's a higher force at work in our lives. Just having that sense will give you a lot of peace. And when various ups and downs come during the day, good news, bad news, you won't be as affected because you'll be connected on a higher level with who you really are. So start this as part of your day. I also recommend if you can add one other element in the Bhagavad Gita or other books like the Sri Ishopanishad, you can open to one page, maybe mark it the night before and just read one verse and just contemplate it. The wisdom literatures give us a higher perspective, and they're not talking about this world, they're talking about our existence as spiritual beings and how we're connected to a higher world. And when we hear that, it sounds like the voice of reason speaking to us, and it is. And just having that as a foundational force in our life, hearing another voice, is very helpful. There are many voices in this world. This morning when I got up before the sun, birds were chirping. Everywhere in the world, people are making billions of inquiries on Google. And all of these sound vibrations are going on around us. Try for higher ground. Get a sound vibration that's a voice of wisdom that's from beyond this world. In the Bhagavad Gita or about the Bhagavad Gita, great thinkers like Thoreau, Emerson, Gandhi, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Albert Einstein, they all notice the same calming voice. And so you can do that too. It's readily available. Just listen to one of the verses, contemplate it, and this is one of the other foundational spiritual practices that you can add on in the morning. Still here in Italy, staying up in a gardenous region and missing you all, hoping all is going well with your spiritual practices. Above all, throughout the day, even if you don't get a chance to start your day with some mantra meditation, the rule is keep the transcendental vibration going. Just remember, you can repair, you can remove yourself from the world and go into your actual existence where you're always calm, you're always okay. By remembering the mantra and saying the mantra, it'll lift you above the worries of this material world. Hope all is well. Take care, and I'll see you all soon.
That was very sweet message. Any questions, comments, thoughts on that?
I'd like to say that both those videos were so awesome and helpful. And I wrote down a couple of things from the first one and this that I really loved. One of them was earlier when he said living for love. That's what Bhakti Yoga is all about. I really like that. And when he said we have a connection with our original source, and it's a very loving connection. And when we're in alignment with our real nature, then we're happy because that's our real nature. And then just now he was saying, we're in a whirlpool and it's our mind. So I thought, oh my, like I didn't expect him to add, it's our mind, because I was just thinking the whole world's a whirlpool, but it really is only our mind. That's what I was thinking.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. When I said that, I also caught the whirlpool. It's actually the mind, and we are caught. And I also like that living for love. I actually am regretting. I should have titled it "Living for Love." Maybe that was the right title maybe for this. But yeah, I like this point. Thank you, Subhadra. Thank you for sharing. Anything else? Anyone?
I would like to see if I could please get the name and the author of those 2 books he mentioned in the chat so that I could purchase.
Sure. Amarilya. I'll send it to you. Thank you. Yeah, I will. Anything else? So just wanted to share one more information. As Vaish mentioned, there is a daily meditation circle which happens from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Pacific. And if you're interested, you can send an email to hi@bhakticommunity.com or sign up at bhakticommunity.com. The group of spiritualists, they all meet regularly every day and they do mantra meditation. They also discuss for 5-10 minutes some spiritual wisdom literature as well. And again, you don't have to be there for the entire 2 hours. You can come and go, come for 5 minutes, come for 15 minutes, whatever suits you. But it's a very good way to start, as Vaish mentioned, in Brahma Muhurta, that too, 1.5 hours before, or 1 hour 40 minutes before the sunrise. That are best time to start, or at least replenish internally your spiritual bucket before you go out to the world. Sorry, we are a couple of minutes late, but thank you everyone for joining today and encouraging each other. It was wonderful to meet you all, and looking forward for Vaish to come back and meeting you all next week. So as Vaish says, let's end with a phrase which means keep the transcendental vibration going, which is Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Thank you.
Haribol.
Haribol.